Hello, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Gress, and I'm going to show you how to do this worksheet called Line Graph that is in your folder. So find this paper. You will also need a pencil and a ruler to do this paper. And we're going to actually start at the bottom of the page where it says Tips for Making Line Graphs. Give the graph a title to describe the subject of the graph. Label the side and bottom of the graph. What do the categories or numbers mean? Choose an interval for each scale, bottom and side, and label them. Put time across the bottom. Plot a data point for each column and connect the dots in order using a straight edge. That's what we're going to use our ruler for. So you'll notice that all the information that this graph has is just this list of data right here. So you need to look over this data, read a few of those lines, skim the rest of the lines, and see if you can figure out what this graph is about. Now, you're going to make up a title for this graph, and the title for the graph is going to go across the top on this line. And when you're trying to decide what a title should be, you don't want it to be too long or too short. So we wouldn't just label this graph money, even though we can see that in a lot of these data sentences there's information about money, because that doesn't tell us enough about what the money is about. We also wouldn't want to write too long of a title by writing the amount of money that Jimmy deposited and withdrew from his bank account from October to September, because that's so long it wouldn't even fit on the line. So we want to come up with something in between that's a few words, but is fairly descriptive. So I'm going to title this graph, Jimmy's Savings. And I'm even going to make this S into a dollar sign just so I can remind myself it's about money. All right, now in this data, we need to figure out what's going to be across the bottom of the graph and what's going to be up the side of the graph. Oh, and by the way, if you have not watched the videos about graphs, then you need to go back and watch the videos about graphs before you start working on creating this graph. So if you know about different kinds of graphs, you know that a line graph, which is what we're making today, usually has time going across the bottom. And so we need to find out in our data what the time intervals are going to be. In other words, what we're going to put underneath each of these lines to signify the time amount that is passing. So we can see that right here in the front, and that's the months. So months would actually be our label for this side of the graph. And I'm going to start in October and put 1 month on each line. Now, I don't want to write the name of the month underneath the box. I want to write the name of the month under the line, because on the line is where we're going to be putting the dot for the data for that month. So this one is going to be October, and notice that I put it right underneath the line. Then November, and I'm abbreviating these. December, because this is not a very big graph. October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Notice that I'm putting these months right underneath a line, not underneath a box. June, July, August, and September. Okay, now you have to write kind of neatly to make it readable when it's this small. Now, up the side, we're going to figure out what we're going to measure each of these months. And what we're going to measure is what we can find out in these sentences, which is all about his savings account that he opened at the bank and putting money in, which is called a deposit, and taking money out, which is called a withdrawal, of his savings account each month. So this side is going to keep track of the money and how much money he has. So I'm going to write money for my label for this side. And I can't really tell just by looking at these how much money, the most money he has in his account at any one time is going to be. But I need to figure out what numbers to put on these boxes. So if I started at the bottom with 0, because you usually always start with 0 at the bottom, if I labeled these $1, $2, $3, $4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, I would only be able to go up to $16. That is not going to work for this graph because I know that in the very first month he put $70 in his account. So that wouldn't even fit on my graph. That would be way up there somewhere where I can't even see it. So each of these boxes is going to have to count for more than $1. And I'm going to need to figure out how much money this graph needs to represent before I can decide how much to make each box worth. So the first line says, in October, Jimmy opened a savings account with $70. So I know that somewhere on this October line, I'm going to need to label $70. So I'm going to put a 70 out there. In November, Jimmy deposited $30 into his account. Now, if he has 70 in October and then he puts in 30 in November, he doesn't have $30 in his account now. He has the $70 that he already had plus $30 more. So the amount that he has in his account right now is 70 plus 30, which is $100. So now I know that these boxes need to go at least up to 100. But I'm going to keep going just to make sure. In December, he took out half of his money to buy Christmas presents. You should know what half of 100 is. You can think of $1 as 100 cents, and half of $1 would be 50 cents. So for December, if he took out $50, he's going to have $50 left in his bank account. In January, he put the $50 he got for Christmas into his account. So he just took out $50, and now he's putting $50 back in, so now he's back up to $100 again. In February, he put in $45 of birthday money into his account. Well, he had $100, and he just put in $45 more, so now he has $145. In March, he didn't go to the bank at all. So do we write 0 here for March? No, he doesn't have $0 in his account. He has the same amount he had in February. It didn't change. So it doesn't go up or down, but we aren't going to mark 0. We're going to leave this month at $145. In April, he took out $25 to go on a field trip for school. So if you need to, you can do your math problem over here, 145 minus 25. 5 minus 5 is 0. 4 minus 2 is 2. So now we know that he has $120 left now. He put $15 in the bank that he earned washing cars. So I'll add $15 to this total. And now we're at 135. So we're up to 135. In June, he took out $25 for souvenir money for vacation. So I'm going to subtract 25. And now he has $110. So we'll put 110 right there. In July, he took $20 to spend at the 4th of July festival. So we're going to subtract 20. Now we've got to borrow. 0 minus 0 is 0. And you can either borrow from this one to make this an 11, or just subtract this section. 11 minus 2 is 9. So he has $90. In August, he took out $15 to buy a video game. 90 minus 15. I'll make this a 10 by borrowing 1 from the 9. 10 minus 5 is 5. 8 minus 1 is 7. $75. In September, he put in $65 he earned at his family garage sale. Plus 65. 5 and 5 is, oops, sorry. Here we go. 5 and 5 is 10. And 7 and 7 is 14. So he's back up to $140. All right, so now I know what numbers I'm going to be putting on the graph for each month. Now I have to figure out what to label these so that I can fit all of the money on the graph. So if I look through here, I can see that the biggest number I'm going to have to put is 145. So I know that this graph needs to go at least up to 145. So if I did these by fives, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. Nope, that's not nearly enough. So let's try tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So I can go up these boxes by tens, and I know that I will have enough space on my graph to mark all of these data points that I'm going to put on it. Now, just like when we were doing the bottom, we're going to put the numbers beside the line, not beside the space. So this is going to say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. You're going to have to write these pretty tiny to fit them by these boxes. So make sure that you're writing nice and neat when you're writing numbers this small. Okay, so now I know that it goes all the way up to 160. So let's look at the tips for making a line graph again. We gave the graph a title, Jimmy's Savings, to describe the subject of the graph. We labeled the side and bottom of the graph. So we labeled this one with months and with money. The months we wrote underneath each line, and the money we wrote by $10 at a time going up the side. Choose an interval for each scale, bottom and side, and label them. Put time across the bottom. So we put the months across the bottom, and we chose the interval 10 to go up these boxes to make sure that we could fit everything on our graph. Plot a data point for each column, and then connect the dots. So for the first one, October, we're going to put $70. I'm going to follow the October line up until I'm right across from the 70, and I'm going to put my dot right there. Okay? This way we have lines that we know exactly where our dot belongs, and if we put the October in the middle of the box and the 70 in the box, then I wouldn't know where inside this box to put my dot. So that's why I'm going to use this dot right here for 70. Next one says 100. He added $30 to account, and now he has 100. So for November, we're going to follow this line straight up until we get to across from the 100. And then we're going to put a dot right there. Okay. Then December, he took out half of his money, so now he only has $50 in his savings. So from December, I'm going to go up to 50. And put a dot. Now, if you have a number that's halfway between 145, let's say that December was 145 instead. When I go up this line, I don't have a line for 145. I have a line for 140 and a line for 150. And 145 is halfway between. So if I were to mark 145, I would put it halfway between the 140 and the 150. Okay? You're going to have to do that later on in February and March. You'll also have to do that for 135 down here. You're going to have to go halfway between 130 and 140. All right, I'm going to let you plot the rest of these data points on your own, and then I'm going to show you how to use the ruler to connect your dots. You are not going to just connect the dots at random to try and make a picture. We have to do the dots in order. So we have to start with October's dot and connect it to November's dot. So we're starting with October, and we're going to draw a straight line with the ruler to November. Then we're going to use the ruler to draw a line from November to December. Okay, so you are going to put in the rest of the dots across this graph, following the data that we wrote down here at the bottom. And then you're going to connect December's dot to January's, then to February, then to March, then to April. And you're going to have a zigzaggy line going all the way across here to September to finish up the graph. All right, that's how we make this line graph. When you get done making this line graph, I would like you to take a picture of it. You can take a picture of it with your Chromebook, or you can take a picture of it on a phone. And then I would like you to attach that picture to this assignment.